Hey everybody, it's Sunday evening and I just got in the door. Not really sure what's going on here in the fish room, so what we're going to do is have a nice little round the world quickie. We're going to look at the fish room together, find out what's going on this evening, and this is going to be a little very impromptu trip around the world, so let's see what we can see. I just did a water change on my Waterfall tank here last night. And you can see, I've mentioned this before, that when the water level is high enough, my little hang on the back filter that I've got on the side creates this flow across the front that has taken all of my milfoil, all this green feathery looking stuff, and instead of it sort of growing right there nice and central, it's all sort of blown down to this end of the tank. But that's alright, I kind of expect that. One of these days I'll do something about that filter. I'll either make a little adapter for it so that it forces the water to flow straight down into the tank and it doesn't give me that surface flow, or I'll just do something else. I don't know. I hadn't really given that much thought until just this very moment, so we're not going to dwell on that. My plants are looking really good. My bird's nest fern over there looks great. I was hoping that would not be getting too much light. You can see a few of the tips are burning up, but that's not too bad. I'm not worried about it that much. And the creeping jenny that I collected from out at the reservoir and put back there is growing really well. And it's filling in all that blank space back there that just looked like ugly rubber with cyanobacteria growing on it. Now, it's still ugly rubber with cyanobacteria growing on it, but what you see is the creeping jenny, and that looks great. The water sprite that's growing back there is actually getting really big and out of control too. You can't really tell because of the way the daylilies are kind of in the way, but I mean you can see that that water sprite grows all the way up through here. All that sort of lacy looking stuff is water sprite, and it's growing down to the front to the point where you're not really even getting a real waterfall anymore. It's just sort of flowing down through the vegetation, which is fine by me. I actually like that look, so I'm not unhappy with that at all. I think it looks great. The other plants, around along the sides are looking good, so we're not going to worry about them. I have had to remove some of my Rex begonias here. Some of them are getting too big. They went up out in the yard. And that's about all we got going on with here. I did do a little bit of duckweed removal from my foot tank, and I topped this one off the other day when I was doing the water change on the actual Waterfall tank. And so we've got fresh water in there, and we've got a slight reduction in the amount of duckweed in that tank. So let's get this one turned off for the moment so we can see in the other tanks without a whole lot of glare going on. We will even go ahead and turn this one off. Alright, so we'll start over here at my 29. Almost got to look at my loaches. All 5 of them were out as I turned around, and of course as soon as I move in front of the tank they all disappear down into the rocks. I'm surprised they're so skittish after all the years I've had them. Really great fish though. My little striated bodia or striped loaches I think are fantastic in this tank. I did a water change on this one several days ago. I got that front glass all nice and wiped down, so everything in here is looking good. Not a lot to talk about as long as we don't see any casualties or anything. Got my angelfish just hanging out over there in the corner. I do love the way this Java fern has grown across that rock and is spreading those roots across the surface and everything. I think that looks awesome. Absolutely love my little loaches. Loaches are just awesome fish, no matter what species they are. So then we get to my 55-gallon Gourami tank. Everything's going on okay in here as far as I can tell. I haven't noticed anything unusual over the last several days. I know it looks bright red on camera. I just don't know why it comes out so red like that. It does not look that red to my eye. It has more of sort of a rusty color to my eye. And that's all that red cyanobacteria. But it's not hurting anything. It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, it gives this tank a very sort of unique look. So once it gets too bad, we'll go ahead and do another chemi-clean treatment on this tank. It's no big deal. Look, there's my Gourami over there munching on some kind of vegetation. but I don't think it was the milfoil here. I think it's some other, so whatever that little bit of brown stuff is floating through the water. So it could be some of the milfoil roots. If you come down here and look, you'll see some of the milfoils turning brown down near the bottom. It does that out at the reservoir. All the stuff that's lower down in the water that doesn't get a lot of light turns brown, and the only place you see that real green foliage is up near the top. So, don't know if that's going to be a thing that happens regularly or if there's enough light that gets all the way down to the bottom or not. But we'll find out. It still doesn't seem like the gouramis have any interest in eating that milfoil, though. I find that really interesting. I thought they were going to destroy that stuff. So moving on to my 55-gallon tank. This tank probably is ready for a water change. I haven't done one in a little while on this tank. And I've got this big pleco in here that is basically a poop machine. And because of that, I need to do at least minor sort of gravel vac kind of water changes from time to time. You can see all that stringy poop on the ground. It's not looking too bad right now, but it does accumulate, and I do need to get in there and gently remove that. So when I gravel vac this tank, it's not a real vigorous crunching down into the substrate. It's just sort of a skimming over the top and sort of surface vacuuming it. I still need to get in here one of these days and dig all of the anacris. I planted some anacris down here, just tucked it under the rock there, and a bunch of it either got knocked loose or tugged loose, and now it's kind of stuck up here, and I still haven't gotten in there. It'll take me 2 seconds to do it. I just never think about it, except at times like this when I'm obviously not going to stop filming and do that. So everything looks pretty good in there. My Nubius is doing well. I'm getting new flowers or whatever you call those things. I got 3 or 4 of them going on in there, and it is going to be just about time to cut some of that down really soon. So anybody that wants some large pieces of Anubias, check out my email down below and get in touch with me, and we can discuss. I think there's another flower developing right there. But check out my email down below, and we can discuss price on, you know, some big, large pieces like this, because I'll have to ship them differently than I normally do. So we can talk about that if you're interested. My 40 breeder, I need to get in here. This is probably my next tank on the list to do a water change, even though I just talked about my 55 needing a water change. This one needs one more. It's been a while since I've been in there. You can see how low the water level is. This is not a tank that I really top off. By the time the water level's getting low, it's just time for a water change. It's only my open top tanks that lose water rapidly that I really worry about putting any, topping them off. Just wanted to get a little look at my tilapia before it disappeared into the back and we don't get to see it. So the only thing I'll say about this tank is that I am considering catching that lone rainbow fish in there and moving it over to my 125 where I've got other rainbow fish, and they'll all school together, I'm sure. But something tells me if I pull this fish out of this tank and move it, it's going to die. They seem to be a really sensitive rainbow fish. You can see my rubber lip pleco on the rock down there. This is another tank that has that red cyanobacteria that makes it look sort of rusty brown to me, but it comes out purple on camera. And even that's being reduced a lot. I've slowed down on how much algae wafers I've been putting in this tank, and as a result, the plecos, the rubber lip you just saw, and I got another one in here that's similar to that, they've gotten back to work at scraping and scrounging on everything, and you can see how much they've removed and how they've cleaned it up. Even the green foliage is actually starting to look nice and green again. So those plecos are worth their weight in gold, I'm telling you. My 125-gallon New World tank, doing well, but this tank, pretty much anytime we ever look at this tank, I could always say this tank needs a water change. It's got a lot of fish in it. It's very heavily stocked, and even when I feed it to the point where I'm just pretty sure everybody's getting fed, and I'm not trying to grow anybody out or especially get anybody big, I'm just feeding the tank. And it's a lot of food that goes in there every day. So it just probably always needs a water change. At any time I could get in here and do one, and it would be for the benefit of the tank. I've got a little bit of dead action happening here and there on some of this water sprite. Not entirely sure what's going on there. I'm really surprised this is not just cooked, being right under this light like that. It's not really hot. Well, by the time you get here, it's getting pretty warm. So I don't know. We'll see how much closer it gets. But that's all water sprite. It grows differently once it grows emergent. It gets this sort of lacy look to it. We saw it in my Waterfall tank, looking the same way. When it grows in the tank, it has leaves that look more traditional, like what you would think of water sprite, with those sort of broad leaves on it. As soon as it grows emergent, the leaves start growing into that. And this looks like this is getting a little sort of dried up and browned up again, being directly under that light like that. This water sprite is actually a low light plant. I'm surprised it's doing as well as it is, being lit up like that. So we'll have to do something about that at some point. That's getting a little silly right there. That's a little out of control, so we'll see what happens with that. But fish-wise, it seems like everybody's doing fine. I don't see anything untoward. I don't see any floaters. I don't see anybody swimming around funny. And I don't know, one of these days before the weather gets too bad, I'll have to get in there and reduce the stock in this tank. There's just too many minnows. The minnows are getting too big. I definitely need to get these couple of creek chubs out of here. There's the one with that sort of blunt head, and there's the other one. This one's starting to get pretty big. Although, as I've said before, if I let this one get much bigger, it will solve some of my minnow problem simply by eating them. Oh, that little school of minnows right there will get reduced as that creek chub gets bigger. So we are going to skim by my gudgeon tank. That is the gudgeon right there. Looks like there's still a little bit of gill movement, so it is still alive, but that's pretty much all it's doing there. I may collect it out of the tank and euthanize it. I don't know. I'm going to have to do something at some point. I can't just have the tank sitting here dark. There is another fish in it, and all those plants need light too. So they're probably getting enough. These are all low light plants like Java and everything. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But we're still basically at this point just kind of waiting for that gudgeon to die. It's an old fish, and its time is probably coming. So moving on to my 125 here. Just did a nice water change on this one. Got the glass all wiped down and looking good. I really need to get in there and thin out some of that red tiger lotus. That's growing a little out of control. Getting up to the top there like that. Trim it back down to that level. And then, of course, my Java fern in this tank is just way out of control. It's just so thick in there. The fish are having a hard time finding places to swim around at this point. But the tank itself is looking fantastic. I actually shot a video the other day of the Tentapoma, and I wound up getting as many compliments on the angelfish there as I did the Tentapoma. And it's no wonder. I mean, if I do say so myself, that angelfish is a looker. It is a gorgeous angelfish, and it's huge. It's the biggest angelfish I've ever had. Not only is the finnage just long and flowing and huge, the body of the fish itself is considerable. That's a big angelfish. So I always get compliments when we get a good look at that one. I always get compliments on this tank too when it's looking nice and clean like this anyway. This is a pretty tank, a lot of nice bright color in there. Contrasts well with all that green. And looks like everything is doing well. When I first walked in the room, I saw two of my three chocolate zebra plecos, and I seldom see them out multiple times. I can actually... Nope, that was my my rainbow shark under there. I thought that was one of my plecos, but it's not. That is my shark. So I know I've got two of the plecos that kind of hang out down at this end of the tank, and when I came in I saw one down here and then I saw another one down here, so chances are all three of them are still alive and doing well, but it's been a long time since I've seen all three of them out together. And there's a better look at my Tentapoma. And that's another huge fish as far as Tentapoma go. They tend to max out around 6 inches or so. And I don't know exactly how long this one is, but assuming they're counting the total length, this one is well over 6 inches. I would say it's probably closer to 8 inches. And it gets fed well, and fish are indeterminate growers, meaning that they grow throughout their whole life. So the older they live, the bigger they get. They just keep growing and growing and growing. While that growth does slow down as they age, they do keep getting bigger as they get older. And he's over 5 years old now. He's probably over 6 years old now, honestly. I don't know exactly when I got him, but I've had him since probably 2013, so maybe 7 years old. He's getting up there, and that's giving him plenty of time to just keep on growing. So he is a big Tentapoma. I'll start posting video titles like biggest Tentapoma on YouTube. That'll get some clicks. So there you go. 125 is looking good. And in case you hadn't noticed, I wanted to just stand there and admire this one for a few moments. So we can move on to my Angelfish Tank. This one, once again, needs some maintenance. I was looking at it as I walked in the door, since this is right at the door. And we've got that sort of green carpet of cyanobacteria going on again, which is not a big deal, but it has come back a little faster than I was expecting it to this time. And I've got it growing on the glass to the point where you can see, I don't know if that's pearling from the cyanobacteria. I do get pearling on cyanobacteria occasionally if it's right under a bright light like this, but it also could simply be bubbles that are being generated by the water flowing into the tank like that, and those little tiny micro bubbles will sort of attach. You can see the bubbles coming into the water, so that's what I'm going to assume all of the bubbles on the glass is. That's the cyanobacteria and algae and stuff growing on the glass, and then that's just the bubbles from the water flowing in. That's not actually pearling going on. But you can see it's ready for a water change. It's ready to get the gravel vacked up very gently and get that glass wiped down, new filter, all that good stuff, basic maintenance kind of stuff. So coming over and looking at Butterbean's tank. Let me get the forward light turned on here. It's always got an awkward switch on it. So Butterbean seems to be doing well and looking good. I still have not gotten in there and scraped that stuff off the back glass, or siphoned it off the back glass. And then otherwise everything in this tank is still pretty much exactly the same, and you can see more of that red cyanobacteria that looks purple on camera. So nothing really to speak of in this tank. Butterbean's the only fish in it. I was asked not long ago whatever happened to the bumblebee gobies that were in here, and I don't know if Butterbean ate them after they died and they were just short-lived fish, and as they died one by one he made snacks out of them, or if he killed and ate them. I have seen him swimming around with gobies in his mouth, chewing on them, and basically devouring them. So I don't know if that was him catching one. I never saw aggression towards them, but either way you slice it, they either died and he ate them, or he caught them and ate them. But either way, there's where the bumblebee gobies in this tank went. Butterbean ate them. So you can tell he thinks I just put some snails in the tank for him. Whenever I'm standing in front of the tank this long, he usually gets some kind of dinner, and now he's wondering what's going on. So that's about it. That's a little more video than I expected. Hopefully this will get uploaded in time tonight. And that'll be our little impromptu trip around the world on a Sunday evening. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget, this one here is my 29 miscellaneous. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.